This show is brought to you by Panini America. Visit PaniniAmerica.net to start your collection of your favorite college and NFL stars. Ari, I have a pack of Panini Prism draft picks right here to rip right now. And, we got some good ones that have come out of these of late. But
there are nukes in there, Andy. I want you to hit a nuke.
Oh, I'm aware. Yeah, I'm aware. So I got a Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. Michael Pittman Jr. playing for the Trojans.
That's electric.
Roe Torrance playing for the old Sun Devils. Hey, I think this is our second Cade Stover autograph.
He signs a lot.
Stover.
He signs a lot. Yeah.
Cade Stover. Ohio State tight. The Ohio State tight end they finally started throwing to. Like they always promised they throw to the tight end. He's the one. Whoa, Prism break. DJ Lagway.
Here's your guy. Go get him to sign it. He's like 10 minutes from you right now. Go get him to sign it.
We're going to have to talk about him later in the show. There's been a little news on DJ Lagway. We'll get to that. We're doing the hardest schedules today. Florida's obviously one of the hardest schedules, so we will talk about that. Trophy hunting, Peyton Manning. Christian Watkins at North Dakota, or Christian Watson at North Dakota State, excuse me. Vince Young at Texas. Braylon Allen. Oh, here's one. Well, Caleb Downs rated rookie. Now, this isn't an Alabama uniform when he was a rookie in college.
Yeah. They have it's rated prospect on those. Which I think are going to be like the next thing that people care about.
Yes, baseball, rated prospect. Excuse me. Yes.
I'm not trying to upstage it, but it's one of those deals where, like in baseball, people love prospecting. Mm-hmm. And my hope is one day that'll happen with college football cards because the most valuable baseball cards are like the first Bowman card that they put out. So like I want this to be the college football NFL equivalent. So I love this this product, and I'm just waiting for you to hit your nuke. And when it happens on the show, it's going to be amazing. Like Panini, send us some juiced boxes so when Andy opens a pack and you like rip a $2,000 card, like we can have a moment. Like the people watch people opening cards on YouTube. So
no, it's a big thing.
Yeah. I bought a Spectra box and I hit this Malik Neighbors
nice
patch rookie card, and he's going to be a stud. So really, really enjoy the whole card world and happy to have Panini with us.
Well, got my first DJ Lagway rated prospect right here. So this is keep that on the down low in this town because there's a lot of people clamoring for DJ Lagway cards. So PaniniAmerica.net. Visit it today. Start your collection. Favorite college and NFL stars and NBA stars as well. We got a box of Prism basketball drafts. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Your official welcome to the show. We're talking tough schedules today. We're talking easy schedules today too. We will reveal the 10 toughest schedules in college football in 2025. We'll also reveal the teams that got the easiest draw from their power conferences, the 4 teams that got the easiest draws from their conferences this year.
We had a pretty rigorous debate behind the scenes about how to do this.
Yes.
Because their easiest draw and easiest schedule are very different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're an SEC team who missed all the big games and had the only big games that you have are at home, that is an easy schedule for an SEC standard. But it's not easier than an ACC team schedule, even one that has a medium draw. So like we didn't know like the best way to do it. I think we landed on our way, and our way is, the right way, I think.
If we'd have done just a list of the 10 easiest schedules, it's just probably going to be a bunch of ACC schedules and Maryland.
Yeah. It's like you could take, that's the thing. It's like if you asked in an honest moment an SEC coach that got a medium draw in the SEC, which isn't easy but isn't like overly difficult, if they would trade with the team in the ACC that has the hardest draw, like if they would consider it like that, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Would a team in the middle tier take Syracuse's schedule, which we've talked about on the show and are going to review here today. So like that to me is an interesting thought exercise. And, frankly speaking, Andy, and I pushed back on this behind the scenes, and I want you guys to know I went to bat for you. The SEC insists on itself a little bit. And coming off of a year where they weren't very good, like road games that were really impossible to win 5 years ago may be more realistic now. Like what do you think? Like, you have the Oklahoma picture up there. It's like, what does a road game at Oklahoma mean to you in terms of rank? Like, typically that's like the hardest.
Alabama says draw. That's very hard. That's a very tough game.
Yeah, right.
Alabama would say that right
does. But that is yeah, but like, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying, how do you view it? Like, that was the difficult part.
It is something that needs to be considered, and we'll talk about that. We also have, after we talk hardest and easiest schedules, we've got Name That Logo, Grabass Friday, naming FCS logos, because we struggled. That's one thing going through these schedules. We've seen a lot of FCS logos, and we're like, who the hell is that? So I'm
looking at the actual graphic right now, and I don't know half of them. So like I don't know if I'm gonna get
Producer River has a practice question for us, so he's gonna start out. River, let's hit the practice. Okay, name that logo. All right, I got my whiteboard out.
So just so you guys know, this is kind of like a old time technical difficulty. We were instructed to go get whiteboards yesterday, and I forgot to do that. So
I have a difficulty. It's an Ari just didn't do it.
Yeah, but like the thing is like, now I'm going like old school pad, and like that is like a old school technical difficulty that somebody might have had like in 1990 before we had streaming.
So reveal your answer, Ari. My answer is Central Arkansas. Ari's answer is, who are three people who've never been in my kitchen?
Hey,
that is the Central Arkansas Bears, the alma mater of Scottie Pippen.
So you knew that. You're gonna kill me. I'm in a mahjong meeting. Okay, let's ride today.
Yes, and I have my toilet paper to erase my dry erase board. I came prepared today.
Just kill a rainforest. I'm just going to rip a page off this every time. See
beautiful.
Oh boy, I'm going to be really embarrassed later, aren't I? We're off to a bad start.
Listen, after discussion of the Houston Christian Husky or Wolf or whatever it is, it looks like the Yukon logo.
The sickest part of
spawned this
is that if you would have put that logo back up right now for the practice question, I wouldn't have retained who it was. Just like that, like, I don't have the ability to retain. I was the kind of dude in college that would cram for a test, like for 2 hours before the test, take the test, get a B or a C, and then forget. If I had to take the test the next hour, I would have failed it. Like, I had no ability to retain the information. But I made it in life.
See, here's the thing about me is I remember that's the Central Arkansas logo. I do not remember when I'm supposed to pick up my kids from school today.
Yeah, the question that I have for you is like, so you have a direct reason for knowing that. Like, you knew that's where Scottie Pippen went to college.
Yes.
And like, that's why you knew that.
Yes.
So that's the thing. It's like, as you go through, like, I had no idea where Scottie Pippen went to college till you just said it. And it's like, as you play this game, the logos I get right will be the logos that I have a reason to know. Like, when they show one of them, it's like, oh, I lost $1,500 betting on them in Vegas 2 years ago. Like, I'll remember that. Like, that's
Correct.
how we'll do it. So, okay, I'm excited to get to that. But
we got schedules. We have the toughest schedules. So the 10 toughest schedules. I guess we'll go 10 through 1. Number 10, we're more making a point about scheduling, because we could have just thrown another SEC or Big Ten team in here, but I also feel like you kind of have to grade on a curve. Plus, we got the MAC schedules this week, so we couldn't have even done this one until we got the MAC schedule. But I got Kent State at number 10. We put Kent State at number 10, and here's why. Kent State, more than any other Group of 5 school, loads up on those bye games, the body bag games, and they get beat to hell and then they have to go play in the MAC, and they get plattered, or, just splattered all over the place. And so this year, they're at Texas. They got Texas Tech, which then Florida State, then Oklahoma. Not in a row. They've got Buffalo in the middle of Texas Tech and Florida State. They actually have a week between Florida State and Oklahoma. So this works out better than the usual Kent State. There was a year where they played Georgia and Oklahoma, I think, back to back. It was awful. So,
and there was actually an error on that, because on that schedule,
they're at Texas Tech. That is not a home game.
Like, there's no way Texas Tech is going to Kent. But like, yes. So like, the thing is that like, this is a direct design to accumulate wealth. This isn't like
accumulate losses.
And it's not like an unfortunate, like, a lot of these schedules that we get to are going to be like, wow, the conference really did them no favors. It's out of their control. Like, Kent designed it this way. So like, I also do, like, even if they're not a very good football team, I think for the vast majority of players who play in the MAC, playing against P teams is like one of the joys of their careers. Like, I have a buddy who played at Temple, which is a bigger school than a MAC school, that I used to work with in high school, and he played against Arizona State, and Temple lost the game, but he made a one-handed catch, and he has a picture of him having a one-handed catch against Arizona State in Sun Devil Stadium, and like, that was like the peaking crowning achievement of his life. So like, I understand that, like, if you're a Kent State player and you go on the road to Florida State and score a touchdown or do something, like, that's something that matters to them. So like, to me, like, my heart isn't bleeding for Kent State. This is what they wanted.
No, it's what they wanted, but unfortunately, it usually renders them very ineffective come MAC play, and so it's not a great way to win games. And like, you do one of these, two of these, but you throw it to three, you're getting pretty beat up by the time you get to MAC play. And unfortunately for Kent State, like, their second MAC game is at Toledo.
Yeah,
they have to be at NIU at the end of the season, so they got a tough draw in the MAC. The way it works out too, and so that's why I got them at number 10. Let us move on to number 9, because now we're into the
real ones,
the name brands. So number 9, Mississippi State. Whoo boy. So now they don't have to go to Arizona State this year. They did it last year. Arizona State comes to them. So at least Mississippi State gets its first 4 games in Starkville. But after they play those first 4 games in Starkville, at Tennessee, at Texas A&M, at Florida, and then you come home and play Texas.
Dude. And then going to Arkansas isn't a gimme, and then you host Georgia. Then going to Mizzou, who's got a pretty easy schedule, which we'll get to, I think, is a game. And then this is brutal.
Awful.
Like, the thing about it is that, like, it's not just the opponents. It's like 3 straight away. Like, how does that even happen? That's not even fair.
Right. And I mean, I get it. You did schedule your non-conference all at home, but yeah, 3 straight road games to start conference play is incredibly rough. Now, there is a week between the A&M and the Florida game, but still.
I just think that it should be like a rule that says no team has to start.
Sorry. The Tennessee game is in Starkville this year.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, that makes it better, but not much better.
We're going to have to work on these graphics here, River. How you get a Tennessee game wrong?
Yeah, he's a Tennessee guy. But still, that's a really tough opening slate. And I'm happy because I hope that there is a rule behind the scenes. It's like no team in the SEC can start 3 in a row on the road.
Yeah, no. So at least it's not as bad as we initially said, but it's still bad. Like, wherever you play Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Florida is a tough stretch.
Yeah, and Georgia, Mizzou, Ole Miss, Arkansas, 4 in a row. Or no, I mean, geez, there's no gimme. I mean, I guess it's hard to have a gimme game in the SEC when you're the team people view as the gimme game, right? Like,
right.
Not a lot of
but Jeff Lebby's in year 2. You're supposed to show improvement. I would argue that Mississippi State did show improvement as last year went on. But it's hard to show it when you're just getting clobbered because this schedule is brutal.
The thing that has always blown my mind about Mississippi State is that they're viewed as the gimme game in the SEC. And this is like peak era. I don't know what it is now, but like peak, like playoff dominant era SEC. Like Mississippi State's roster was still like a top 30 talent.
Oh, a good example of that. So 2010, Mississippi State was really good. This was the year that Auburn won the national title. Mississippi State finished 15th in the country. This team had Fletcher Cox. Like, it had a bunch of NFL dudes on it. 15th in the country, 5th in the SEC West. So it's a tough job. It is a very tough job. Jeff Lebby knows that. Let's move on to number 8. We stay in the SEC. There's a lot of SEC teams in here. I'm warning you now.
Yeah, everybody listening, I know you already have your tweets written out, but like the SEC is just, it's a harder life.
It's because your mid tiers and your low tiers are still talented, and I think that's what makes it tougher. It's
like going on the road to Auburn isn't a gimme game.
Right. Arkansas. Now, Sam Pittman comes in again with his job on the line. He's under pressure again.
Is he the record holder for longest hot seat streak of all time?
He's getting there.
On the hot seat for 6 years now. I mean, it's just like
he's getting there. Now, you want to criticize SEC schedules, fine, but they are bringing Notre Dame in. So this is they're not just. It's not just saying, "Oh, the SEC is hard." No. They're bringing in Notre Dame. So you've got at Ole Miss is their first SEC game. Notre Dame comes to them on September 27th. Then they're at Tennessee. They get Texas A&M and Auburn and Mississippi State at home. And then at LSU, at Texas, and close with Missouri. Holy crap.
And you know what stood out to me, too, is a game that you are easily is easily glossed over. But going on the road to Memphis, which is typically one of the better G5 teams, is not like a walk in the park either. Like that to me is like something I wanted to highlight. They are a tough out. So I think that they should be expected and probably will win the game, but it's not like you get to recharge that week. Like that's a tough game.
At Ole Miss, at Memphis, Notre Dame is a rough 3-week stretch.
Yes.
That is a rough 3-week stretch.
Yeah. So, and back to back on the road against LSU and Texas is just a nightmare.
Yeah, because that's what we've talked about LSU quite a bit. We think they're going to be better this year. Like that is, and the thing is, Arkansas wasn't bad last year. Like they were a good team. I like Taylor Green as a quarterback. But what is because the Arkansas fans are like, well, it's fine, but we're tired of going 6-6 and 7-5. Like, what do you want out of this?
Yeah. I was just like, there probably should be. I don't know if it ever will happen, like an actual context conversation. Because when we get to the number 1 hardest schedule, because that's just you're toast. It doesn't matter how good of a job you do, you're toast. How to properly grade or judge a coach's performance based on using conference strength and schedule as part of that. Because it's just like, I don't want to blow number 1, Andy, but number 1 is a coach that's coming in a pretty difficult situation already.
Yeah.
And
I would argue that our number 1 is it is a situation very similar to a different coach was last year. And by the way, that different coach and his team are also on this list coming up. So
I also think that the number 1 schedule this year is hard on this list is harder than the schedule that team faced last year.
I would agree.
Let's stop talking in riddles and just get to the next one.
Well, our next one is a coach that we talk about quite a bit on this show, a program we've talked about quite a bit on this show, Kentucky. So we have Kentucky coming in at number 7. Not the most difficult out of conference schedule, except Louisville at the end, which I think Louisville is going to be pretty good. But the SEC part of it is the way it works out is pretty rough. They have back-to-back road games against South Carolina and Georgia. Now, they do have a week off in between, so that's helpful. But then Texas comes to them, Tennessee comes to them, they go to Auburn, and Florida comes to them. Ari, you can just, if they are not any better than they were last year, they just get buried by this thing.
Oh my God. South Carolina at Georgia. Both are on the road. Texas, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida. Like, listen, guys, I was your Northern hero last year. I did my part to try to contextualize that the SEC wasn't as good as it's been in the past. I was good cop, bad cop, I guess. There's no way to change how you feel about that. It's just impossible. Like there's no bounce back. And I don't like also too, Andy, like how do you view open weeks? Like, do you think that that's like, does that make it easier? It's like, okay,
it does make it somewhat easier in terms of your bodies healing, that sort of thing. Although I would argue that an open week killed a team's playoff chances last year. The Ole Miss having the open week between the Georgia game and the Florida game, like they just got drunk on the praise and then forgot they needed to go beat Florida to make the playoff. Like,
yeah, but it can be work against you too. But like playing all those games in a row without being able to get a win somewhere is just brutal.
Yeah. Now, Kentucky did go to Ole Miss and win last year.
They did.
So it's not impossible. Like if you, the other problem with this is having that Ole Miss game in week 2. This is similar to last season where they had that South Carolina game in week 2 at home. And remember, they were a double-digit favorite at home, and South Carolina went in there and just crushed them. Mm-hmm. And it felt like, oh God, where does it go from here? Now they played well against Georgia after that, and then they beat Ole Miss. So they did bounce back from that loss. But then it all fell apart.
Yeah.
I just with Stoops, he's set for life there. Like he doesn't have to do much. He's too expensive to fire. So, is he really going to make them better? And that's the question.
Yeah, and again, get lost in the context, but you can make a team better without seeing a better record. Like that, and like I think that there has to be some thought process to that because it's like even if you go 2-4 during that 6-game stretch, which means you win 2 pretty big games, like your record sucks. So like there's no way around it.
Yeah. Now we leave the SEC momentarily. For our number 6 team, Wisconsin. This is another one where we've talked about Luke Fickell. We've talked about their situation. I am worried about this situation because this is a hard schedule. I don't know that how much they've materially improved their roster. They did get a really good tight end, Tanner Koziol.
Yeah.
But I don't like this schedule at all, Ari. And I don't like the way it shakes out either. So obviously they're going to Alabama. That's the headline of the non-conference. Having Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon in 4 consecutive weeks.
And then the dessert is Washington.
Right. You get an off week and then you get Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. All teams that can beat you, by the way. All of them.
Yeah. And if Indiana's better than they've been in the past and Illinois is who we think they are, like there's no reprieve there. The thing that's interesting too is that like sometimes like Big Ten teams like Indiana's the perfect example from last year. Only had to play one of the Big 4 in the regular season, and it helped them get to the playoff.
Well, no, they played Michigan. It's just Michigan wasn't that good.
Oh yeah, they did play Michigan. Michigan wasn't very good last year. But to play 3 of the Big 4 in the same stretch is a really tough draw.
Yeah, and it's great that you get Iowa and Illinois at home. I think that helps playing. Those are teams that are going to play a similar because we know that they're offensively going to try to go back to the style that we're more used to seeing from Wisconsin. So, it's good that you get those guys at home, but it's still tough. I mean, remember Brett Bielema coming to Madison and whipping Paul Chryst was what ended Paul Chryst.
Yeah,
when he out Wisconsin.
It's really interesting because like what we found doing the schedule exercise, Andy, is that it feels like a lot of the coaches who are in the most dire situations or in the most crucial situations. Like I did a list of top 10 teams facing most pivotal seasons. And like there's other teams that aren't on that list, like Wisconsin. It's like Wisconsin isn't being done any favors here either. Like they could improve and Fickle could address the things that ailed his team a year ago. And they could still have a bad year. So like that to me is just like, well, maybe that's why they gave him the extension in advance, so they don't have to worry about talking about this. Maybe the administration. Do you think administration like knows going into a situation that things are going to be difficult before, and then does things like that to get out?
That extension is something they do for every coach.
Yeah,
it's just a procedural thing at Wisconsin. So I don't think it had anything to do with specifically this year, but it certainly.
Do you think any admins anywhere will look at a thing and go, "Well, our coach isn't really popular right now." Or is moderately popular. Next year, we're screwed. Let's extend him now. Like, in that flow chart discussion, like, let's extend him now to avoid the firing discussion a year from now.
You do wipe that off the board if you make it as expensive as you can. But the thing is, Fickle's extension also doesn't increase the amount of the buyout right now.
Yeah.
It puts them on the hook if they fire him later for some, but it's not. It doesn't actually just add $6.5 million to the current buyout. So
yeah.
I think it'll be okay on that front. And I also think he's still too expensive to fire after this season. So I feel like he's going to get a little forced patience there. But it's interesting because, and we'll talk a little bit later about Maryland, which is one of the teams they play, and Mike Loxley, who also enters a pivotal season, who does have a manageable buyout. But in this case, the Big Ten did him a massive favor because he's not facing this.
Right.
Before we get to the top 5 most difficult schedules, I'm going to tell you about State and Liberty. I'm wearing my State and Liberty waffle hoodie right now. One of my absolute favorite garments is the one where the people are like, man, you've been hitting the gym. No, I have something that fits me perfectly because State and Liberty clothing fits you perfectly. Whether it's a hoodie or a suit, they go all the way. They run the gamut. Comfortable, athletic clothing, holds up in the wash. Fire your dry cleaner. You can wear it to work, no matter what job you do. Use the code AndyAri for 10% off for new customers. And these guys don't put stuff on sale very often. So this is a great deal. Use the code AndyAri, ANDYARI, for 10% off for new customers, stateandliberty.com. Also, there's a link in the show description if you just want to click on that. That'll get you your 10% off as well. Ari, number 5. Another team that we've talked about a lot that is in a pivotal season. The fan base demands results, and the schedule is hard. LSU. They open at Clemson, and it doesn't get much easier from there because Florida comes to them in week 3. Then they're at Ole Miss, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, at Alabama, Arkansas, closing at Oklahoma, which could be a very desperate Oklahoma by that point. I don't like this schedule one bit. I realize LSU has improved the roster, but this is a tough, because you could lose to Clemson and Florida, which could be playoff teams, and you're 1-2 and everybody's ready to just bail.
It doesn't really help all the SEC schedules, and I think part of this, Andy, for me, when looking through the schedule, is the emergence of South Carolina as a very good team.
Yeah,
because in past years, South Carolina would have wedged into some of these schedules and it would have been like, okay, well, at least they get South Carolina. And like this year, it's like, oh no, they have South Carolina. Like,
and South Carolina turned out to be a huge win for LSU last year.
Right,
huge.
But like, it's not a game that they're going to go, and like South Carolina typically isn't an easy win like Mississippi State has been in the past, but it's been a breather to a certain extent. And when teams take too much of a deep breath, they end up losing to them because they're talented. But South Carolina, a team that we think could win 10 games and contend for a playoff spot, being wedged into the schedule, like back-to-back, South Carolina or Vanderbilt might have kept them off this list 3 years ago. But going on the road to Clemson in an opener. And it's like the thing too, that is not even just like the way the games stack up with this LSU schedule that gets me, Andy, is the struggles that LSU has had in their openers the last 3 or 4 years. I don't.
Yep.
It's a pretty
this one's not on a Sunday, so
it's not on a Sunday, but it's like going on the road to Clemson, another team that we have really the highest expectations I've had for Clemson in maybe 4 years. And like, even if Clemson turns out to be the best team in the country next year, LSU losing its opener again is a really tough way for Brian Kelly to open up that season. And then you get a break, and then you have Florida, then you get a break, and then Ole Miss, South Carolina. Like, that's not an easy first 6 games. Like, you have 4 games on that schedule that you could conceivably lose if you're not about your stuff. And like, that to me is like, I think LSU probably would have done a lot to just be like, hey, give me a gimme of a win to open the season so we can get some momentum. Like, that's the thing that they've had to overcome for what I don't remember what it is. It's 6 years. They've lost their opener like an obscene amount of times in a row, and I can't remember what the actual number is, but it's tough.
I believe it's 4, but it is now. Granted, they've played some really good teams, so like. Nathan in the chat asks, how hot is Brian Kelly? See, it's not hot at all because they would owe him so much money. So I don't think that's even a consideration right now.
It's 5, Andy. They've lost 5 openers in a row.
5? Is it 5? Okay. Yeah.
5.
This is gonna be a big one. That Clemson game is gonna be huge. You and I are probably we think we'll be in Columbus for Texas Ohio State. We'll have to go find somewhere to watch that one.
The thing about it is that like it's Arch Manning. Like, I think it has to be Columbus, but I've never been to Clemson, so I'm kind of sad about it.
Clemson's a fun place to watch a game too. This is just the thing about this though. If LSU is really good and LSU is a playoff quality team, like they can still go 10-2 against this schedule. Like, it's hard, but if they're as good as an LSU team should be talent-wise, they can manage it.
Yes. It just will be a tough week optically for them. That's all.
Yeah, because don't lose the opener.
I don't know. I just don't know if the country as a whole, the casual fan that we talk about sometimes, is up to speed on how good Clemson could be next year. Like, so that's the other thing too. Like, they have it in their mind that Clemson's tough but not great. If Clemson turns out to be great next year, you know how openers can be deceiving sometimes. Like, LSU,
absolutely.
When they lost to Florida State a few years ago, it was like, oh my God, how did those? And then Florida State went undefeated. So it's like
good, yeah.
We'll get some context there, but like LSU and Clemson is going to be, I would even argue, more revelatory for the national championship race than the Clemson or than the Texas Ohio State game. Like, in terms of like what it ends up meaning later on down the line, or what we end up finding out. And we're going to find out more in that town.
Clemson would have been on this list, I think, if they had to play Miami in the conference schedule.
Yeah.
Because they're playing LSU and South Carolina out of conference, which is very, very rough. And I believe they get Louisville and SMU, but they don't have to play Miami in regular season ACC play. Otherwise, they might have been on this. Miami might have been on this list if that game had been scheduled. So yeah, they're at Louisville and they have SMU at home. So they would have been on this list too, probably, if they'd had to play Miami. You swap out like BC for Miami. You don't like that. And at Georgia Tech is no walk in the park for Clemson, but I think the way that Clemson's built, that's a game they should probably be able to handle. Yeah. So that's a bonus one. They might have made this list. Here is an ACC school that did make this list, Ari. Number 4. This is the one you sprung on me the other day because you'd been doing some research. Yeah. Syracuse. Oh my God. Because if you look at the other, like pretty much all of the other ACC schedules, basically all of the other ACC schedules are much easier than this. I don't know what they did to piss off the league office, but they are at Clemson. They are at SMU. They're at Georgia Tech. They are at Miami in conference play. They're at Notre Dame, which an ACC team against Notre Dame is kind of a conference game because it's part of Notre Dame's agreement with the ACC to have its other sports in there, that 5 ACC teams play Notre Dame every year. The Tennessee game's in Atlanta. Oh, Poor Fran Brown. He had a great first year. This is rough.
Yeah. There are two types of hard schedules, Andy. There's ones where you have a bunch of hard games in a row, which Syracuse avoided. And there are ones where every single team that is really good is on the road, thus killing your chances potentially of getting hot. And it's like every other week. And like SMU being good, makes that difficult. Clemson being great makes that difficult. And here's the thing, too. You have Tennessee listed as a home game, and I think it might be, but it's in Atlanta. A neutral site game in Atlanta, which means it's going to be all Tennessee fans, right? Like you might not be able to tell because they have similar colors, but like Tennessee is going to dominate that. Like that's a really tough opener too. So, Fran Brown, I think is one of the bright stars and rising in coaching, but I think that you have to have a regular assumption or a fair assumption that Syracuse is going to have a record regression this year. Because there's just nothing. What are they supposed to do with this? Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of these deals of like, just throw this season out and we'll come back in 2026 and try again.
Yeah, and Fran Brown would never say that. But
can you imagine when he looked at it for the first time, though?
Like, this is the most lopsided of because in the SEC, there's a lot. There's not a lot of ways you can slice it. You're probably going to get a pretty hard schedule. In the Big Ten, there's a good chance you're going to draw potentially two superpowers. Like in the ACC, you can get away with not having a super tough conference schedule. But this wound up being as bad of a schedule as you could get in terms of difficulty from the ACC.
Yeah. And then this kind of brings up the discussion of what I was alluding to at the beginning of the show, Andy, which is, I actually brought up the notion or the idea of putting Syracuse as number one. And then you brought back, which is probably true, that an SEC schedule is harder. So let me ask you this, with the truth serum in the neck that we always talk about, you ask an SEC coach, hey, let's just say somebody from our list here, let's just say Kentucky.
Yeah, Mark Stoops.
Do you think Kentucky would trade their schedule for this one? Well, we have him ranked ahead of Kentucky. We have him, but you think he would?
No, actually, I don't. I don't. I think they're both brutal. Like I don't know that you trade it.
I mean, Kentucky has all those games in a row.
Like it's one thing if you said Brian Kelly and Brian Kelly goes, do I get to keep my roster? But Kentucky and Syracuse, the gap between their rosters is not as big either.
Well, the thing too is like, let me ask it this way. Do you think a coach would rather have tough games in succession or all their tough games on the road? Like, what do you perceive as more difficult?
Oh, I think they would rather. I think they'd take the tough games on the road over the cumulative effect of tough. Yeah,
I think I'm with you on that.
Back to the SEC for number 3. We've talked about this team a little bit in terms of how difficult they make their opponents' schedules, but their schedule itself is very difficult, and that is South Carolina. So obviously playing Clemson every year in the non-conference. They also add Virginia Tech. They got to go to Missouri. They got to go to LSU. They got to go to Ole Miss and Texas A&M. They get Oklahoma and Alabama and Vandy and Kentucky at home. I mean, here's the thing. Our expectations for South Carolina are huge. We love Lenora Sellers. We're excited about what they can be. This schedule could make it where they are just as good as they were last year,
but worse.
But if the ball bounces differently, they're 8-4 instead of 9-3.
Yeah. So I think that Kentucky actually got a harder SEC draw than they did in terms of what they have to play in a row. And South Carolina is fortunate enough to miss Georgia. But I think playing Clemson at the end of the year in a place where if things do go well for South Carolina, could be for a playoff spot, is a really tough situation. Like even if they traverse their schedule and get to 9-2, the fact that they would have to play a non-conference game at the end of the year against another team that we perceive will win the ACC a year from now, is just a really bad situation for them. And I get it. Rivalry games are rivalry games, but I really do think that South Carolina could conceivably be 5-0 going into that LSU game. And who knows if they're really, really good, give them another game. and maybe get to 6-0. Like, I think that they have a chance to do it again. But like that last Clemson game just kind of hits you in the face a little bit when you realize it's like, okay, if you're fortunate enough to get through that. And also too with A&M, Andy, and I'm sure you probably considered this when you were making your schedule. Like, my perception of an A&M game being difficult or hard was always based on where it is, and the fact that this one's on the road late in the year is a difficult proposition for them as well.
Yeah, because if A&M's good, Kyle Fields rocking, and that's a tough place to play. It's sort of like what A&M ran into with South Carolina at Williams-Brice when they played last year.
Yeah. And A&M is always a team that it's like, we don't really quite know what they are. It's
exactly.
Like,
they could be really good.
Yeah, what if A&M's really awesome?
Speaking of teams that play Texas A&M, number 2, Florida. So we had them number 1 going into last season. I think Florida State being bad last year just sort of, drops this one. The assumption is Ole Miss won't be as good as they were last year. We don't know about Tennessee quite yet. So we don't look at this as the single hardest schedule, but they do have Miami and Florida State in the non-conference. They have to go to LSU. They have to go to Texas A&M. They have to go to Kentucky and go to Ole Miss. They have Georgia and Jacksonville, and Texas comes to them. We're going to find out. We're going to find out because either they're going to be improved, which the team at the end of last season could win 9 or 10 games against this schedule. The team we saw playing LSU and Ole Miss could win 9 or 10 games against this schedule. The question is, will they be that team?
I've got so many emotions right now. I think I don't want to make that bet with South Carolina anymore. Remember how I said I'll take the Florida win total over the South Carolina win total? I take that back.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's an insane schedule. Like, I mean, they have one guaranteed win, which is Tennessee, because Tennessee has never wins in Gainesville. I just said that to get River all fired up, but like that's a tough.
It's true. They haven't won since 2003 in Gainesville.
Yeah, so they're 1-0 already. So you're almost there. But no. All kidding aside, if Tennessee is a tough game always.
Well, and that's
how many other.
This will be the latest they've played Tennessee since 2001.
How many other?
Remember 2001, the game got moved because of 9/11, and it got played in December.
Andy,
they've never played Tennessee this late.
How many other teams do you think play 2 of the toughest teams in another conference? Like, I don't know if Florida State's going to be good this year, but if Florida State has a rebound year and they're better, like playing your non-conference schedule in the SEC featuring 2 teams that could conceivably be in the top 4 of their conference rankings at the end of the year is pretty difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll find out. So we also saw yesterday DJ Lagway limited in spring practice. We'll see what the injury situation is with him. From what I can gather, you're probably not going to see much of him in spring practice, but they think he's going to be all right by the season. If he's fine by the season, that's fine. That's not a problem.
You want to get into that now?
We don't have to get into it for long, but we don't know what the thing is. They were very coy about it. So,
yeah, a lot of people out there thinking that's very fishy.
Yeah, and it seems like it. But the fact of the matter is, he'll either be good for the season or not. And I'm not worried about him not doing spring.
Although it would
as long as he's ready for the season.
Seems like a pretty pivotal point in his career arc.
I think he's pretty good. I think we know he's pretty good.
I know. It would be nice to have.
I don't think whether he does spring practice is going to determine whether he's good or not. We know he's good.
No, I know. But so, the big leap from freshman to sophomore year, I'm assuming that getting reps and going through spring ball and
and the more concerning thing is he did have some injuries during the season last year. They really can't, they are a different team without him. And this schedule is not manageable without him.
Who's their backup next year?
Harrison Bailey.
Okay.
Former Vol, been around the block a little bit, been to some different places. So, but that's number 2. Number 1. And I would argue that this coach enters this season where Billy Napier entered last season. Oklahoma. Brent Venables. Oh my. Michigan comes to town week 2. Then Auburn. Now, here's the thing. They do not have a tough road game until South Carolina in the back half of the season. Now, look, Texas and Dallas is tough, but it might be helpful that they don't have to do that. They're randomly at Temple, which is crazy. But they do this sometimes. Like they'll go to Army, they'll go to Temple. So, but this is a brutal. The back end of this is the second half of the season. You ready? So you finish the first half of the season playing Texas and Dallas. The second half of the season is at South Carolina, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, LSU. Like, if things are going bad, you could lose all 6 of those games.
Oh, my God. What are they supposed to do with this? Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Mizzou, LSU, all in a row. What are they supposed to do with that?
Well, they're supposed to win those games because mediocrity is not accepted in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well.
And that's the thing. There are no excuses. Like, they're supposed to win those games. Period.
This is the interesting thing about it, though. Because last year, and I think I'm right, no 3-loss team made the playoff last year, right?
No.
I think if Oklahoma goes 9-3, depending on what the rest of the country looks like, they might have a shot to get in.
Depends on the 9 and depends on the 3. Like, you can't get blown out in your losses, but if you have 3 very close losses against this schedule,
let's just
have some good wins.
Say they lose to Michigan, Texas, and LSU.
Right. And 2 of those 3 or all of those 3 make the playoff.
Yeah. And then South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama wins. Like, that'd be a pretty good resume.
One would think.
Conceivably. Like, I mean, we're doing this off helmets, guys. Like, we know. Like, last year we would have said if South Carolina is an easy game, and it wasn't. But, like, I also feel like, too, that'll average out. If you have a team on your schedule that we think is great, it ends up stinking. There will be a team on your schedule that we didn't think would be very good, who's much better than we thought.
Right. You and I think Auburn's going to be significantly better. So
I view that as a hard game when we were doing it.
I do too.
So, yeah. But, like, I do think that, we do our saucy takes next year, and it might be something different, but we're going to have spicy takes next year.
Yeah.
Picante takes. I think that I might, like, open up the year right now and say a 3-loss team will make the playoff next year.
I think it's certainly possible. You could also have a 3-loss conference champ that makes the playoff.
Yeah. What about a 3-loss at large?
What you just described would be a 3-loss at large.
I feel like Lee Corso ready for the last segment here.
There you go. Did you? Well, we put the Oklahoma mascot head on already. Like, Oklahoma is the hardest schedule. Can Brent Venables survive this schedule? That's the question. Like, what record is good enough for Brent Venables to survive the schedule?
I think if Oklahoma goes 8-4 next year, then they had a good year.
I would agree with that. I don't know that all of Oklahoma's fan base would agree with that. I think the reasonable fans among them would agree with that. But I think the administration would agree with that.
The thing that's going to stink is if John Mateer's awesome and Ben Arbuckle and him, like, go dancing and have a perfect year and, like, really gel, that it's just going to be really still hard to overcome the schedule. Like, it's like, even if things work exactly as they were intended to in the offseason rebuild, there are just circumstances that are out of their control. And it's like, I don't care how good you are, you're going to have tough games. So, like, to play that 7-game stretch to close the year, you go 5-2, which would be excellent.
Florida's last year was a 6-game stretch that we just looked at. It was like, holy crap, this is 7. This is 7 games. It's just awful. All right. So we go from hardest to easiest. And so we didn't do an easiest schedule because it would have been a lot of the same teams in the same league. a lot
But
of
I'm
very
going to
similar
crown an
looking schedules.
honorary. I'm going to crown the easiest schedule when we're done, and I'll take that on the chin if people get mad at me. But there is one unequivocally easiest schedule I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay, I think
Not
I
the
know which one
easiest
it is.
draw. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
yeah. All right. So easiest draws in each of the power conferences. We'll start with the Big Ten. It's Maryland. Maryland does not play Ohio State or Oregon or Penn State. They do have to play Michigan. But no Ohio State, no Oregon, no Penn State. Like to miss those three is the best draw you can get, because those three are instant losses, especially when you're in Maryland's situation. So Maryland also loaded up on easy non-conference games, or not. Well, they should be easy. FAU, NIU, Towson. Now Towson, taking care of the local FCS team. Also Mike Loxley's alma mater. But here's the thing. They still have to play Illinois. They still have to play Michigan. Like, they've got to be. This has got to be a bowl season for them.
Yeah, this is. You play one of the big four, and you might make the case that they get. I mean, if you had to just say it right now, Michigan's probably the weakest of the big four right now, based on perception. Right.
And if their offense turns out awesome this year, it's different. They
could be the best. We don't know, but as of right now, the perception is that they've got the weakest of the four, and they get them at home at the end of the year. So they have a lot of time to build up and get some confidence and get some wins to put themselves in. So like that to me, is a pretty good draw. And River, if you could throw that graphic up for me one more time, I just want to make sure they don't have any. They have one cross country trip, but usually in the Big Ten, I think that we have to keep track of the coastal teams on both sides of the country and how many times they have to fly to the other coast. And doing it one time and then having a bye week to recover it before playing their next game is also an advantageous draw.
Yep. So that is your Big Ten one. Let's go to the ACC. Congratulations, Bill Belichick. You got the easiest draw. Now, you do have to play Clemson, but you don't have to play Miami. You don't have to play Louisville, and you don't have to play SMU.
Or Florida State, if that means anything to you.
Well, I don't know if that means anything or not, but yes, it does. Actually, two power conference teams in the non-conference, TCU and UCF, but neither of them have been world beaters of late. So it really depends if you're Bill Belichick, how good is Duke? Is Manny Diaz, is Duke good again? What does NC State look like with new coordinators? Jake Dickert takes over at Wake Forest. I think they could be better than they were last year. That he's importing an entire offensive line from Washington State, basically. But this is a manageable schedule for Bill Belichick in year one.
It's the easiest schedule in college football this year.
I think you may be right. Wake Forest is pretty easy too, because they bailed out of the Ole Miss game.
Weight adjusted, obviously. Like I would think that a MAC schedule would be easier for North Carolina than their schedule, but based on your level in your conference, they couldn't have had an easier draw. They don't play anybody, and the one team that they do play is at home.
Yeah. Yep. So congratulations to Bill Belichick. No, you better win against that schedule. Like, don't go.
If he goes 8-4 against that schedule.
Ooh.
Wait, 8-4. I think, I don't know. Like, we have to talk about that's an off-season pod, but like I don't even know. Like, as we get closer to the year, like trying to identify what reasonable expectations and trying, like, it's the same thing that we struggled with Dion a few years ago. It's like, what's a success and what's a failure? Like, I don't know what that is there.
It's a little bit different because they have had recent success, and North Carolina is not one of those where you can just win 8 games and they're happy. Like they've won more than that.
To be in the Hall of Fame, so like that. I don't know if that means anything to you, but Colorado wasn't like replacing a Hall of Famer either.
No, and Colorado was replacing a coach that was their roster was abysmal. Their record was abysmal. Like any wins was a massive improvement. That's not the case in North Carolina. Speaking of Colorado and the Big 12, let us see the easiest draw in the Big 12. Now, this was a hard one because all of the teams near the top of the Big 12 are really similar. So all the schedules are kind of the same in conference. There's a few, though, that it comes down kind of to who you miss and then where you get people and when you get people. And so I went with Kansas State as the easiest draw because they're missing BYU and they're missing Arizona State. That Arizona game that you see that's a road game, not a conference game. That's the one. Remember, Ari, they had the series scheduled with them before Arizona joined the league. And so then you've got the Iowa State game in Ireland, which I'd rather play Iowa State in Dublin than in Ames. Like, Ames is a tough place to play. So, and again, you miss BYU and Arizona State. You're not going to miss all of the contenders in the Big 12. You just can't. So, but they get Texas Tech at home. Like, you don't have to go to the deal with the winds of Lubbock. So you get Colorado at home. You get TCU at home. So as these go, I think they've got the best draw. Now, again, it's the Big 12. Everybody's draw is generally equal. Yeah.
And I floated, and I don't know how handy it is for you, River, but I floated BYU as an option too.
Because they miss BYU.
Because they don't have to play BYU, which helps. But that they did, in my opinion, have a pretty. There we go. So they don't play Arizona State at all, and Utah is a home game, and I think that you can make a case that.
And Utah, they don't play K-State. They do have to go to Ames, and they go to Lubbock.
It was the back-to-back Ames Lubbock. Because I think we perceived that Texas Tech could win 10 games this year. That kind of tilted the scales in Kansas State's favor. But in terms of the teams that they're playing, they had a pretty good draw too. So, yeah, BYU, I think BYU is a team that, is one of the top 3 favorites to potentially win that conference this year. And I think that this schedule makes that manageable goal.
And Iowa State definitely did not get considered for the easiest one because you see where BYU plays Iowa State. The following week, Iowa State has to play Arizona State. So they get BYU and Arizona State back to back, which is pretty rough. Now they get them both at home, but it's still back to back.
There will be a wagon in that conference this year that comes out of nowhere. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but someone's like Oklahoma State.
Right. It could be TCU. It could be Baylor. It could be Texas Tech. Like
someone's going to pop out of nowhere. Baylor, by the way, great end of the year last year. Like
fantastic. Yes. Sawyer Robertson kicking butt.
Dave Aranda's squad there. I think they have some expectations. So, Big 12 is just no one's easy in the Big 12 because everybody's favored in dogs by 3 points in every game.
Mm-hmm. We have our plus minus 3 coin. All right, let's go to the SEC. The easiest draw in the SEC. There aren't any really easy draws in the SEC, but Missouri probably got the most favorable one. I would argue they got the most favorable one last year too. Now this is just a mirror of that schedule.
That's why.
Yeah. So. Hey, it's Central Arkansas right there. This is Central Arkansas Bears. We doing these logos here in a second. But they get Bama at home. They get South Carolina at home. They go to Auburn. They go to Vandy. They go to Oklahoma. But I think Missouri can handle. If Missouri is about what they were last year, which, look, it's going to be different. Brady Cook's gone. Bo Pribula comes in at quarterback. But this is a manageable schedule. Like, this is a schedule they can win 9 or 10 games against.
Yeah. And, probably will because, Eli's done a pretty good job there. Here's the thing that I wanted to mention before we move on. Texas might have made this because they have the mirror of what they had last year. And Texas' schedule was a joke last year, but they play Ohio State in the opener. So that kind of swung the scales a little bit. But Texas, I believe I'm speaking for both of us, is our, current favorite or pick to win the national title next year. Go on the road against Ohio State in what is a glorified exhibition game. They could lose and be completely fine. And then they don't play Alabama this year. And, the 2 road games that they have are pretty tough with Georgia and Florida. But I believe
and we weren't looking at the visit from Florida as a hard game last year, which it wasn't because Lagway didn't play. But if they are playing Florida with a fully healthy DJ Lagway, that is a challenging game no matter where it's played.
Yeah, but I still think that they're probably going to come in next year, with an advantage against Oklahoma, though that game is weird. They get A&M at home after beating them on the road last year. I feel like if they go 2-1 against Ohio State, Florida, and Georgia, that they'll make the playoff. So yeah, that's it. So they are in the advantageous, but they made bucket, but they made their lives a little bit more difficult with the Ohio State schedule there. But great, game's happening.
There you go. Yeah, at least they're playing it. I did my mailbag column where a reader named Jordan wrote in and said there are only 12 in the Big Ten where they're playing another power conference or Notre Dame out of conference. Only 12 games in the Big Ten like that.
Don't say it. Just move on. Don't say what you're thinking. Just move on.
It's the argument for a Super League because it forces them to schedule those games. The SEC is not much better. The SEC's got 18 of them. The ACC has 27, by the way. So
yeah, I mean, that checks out.
Yeah. All right. It is Grabass Friday. It is time to compete because, where this started was with the Eastern Illinois logo. I believe we were looking at Alabama's schedule, and I was like, "Oh, Georgia State changed their logo. It's a new panther." And the chat's like, "No, dude, that's Eastern Illinois." I was like, "Oh, crap. We need to see how well we can identify these FCS teams by their logos because as we're diving deep into schedules, we're seeing a lot of these logos." We did the test earlier with Central Arkansas River, and I passed and Ari failed.
Does that go on the scoreboard, or was that just a warm up?
No, that was just a warm up.
That was a warm up.
Okay, yeah. So we're on even footing here.
We'll treat it like we did. Once I throw the logo up, the countdown will start.
Okay.
Once you hear the ding, show your answer.
All right.
So I'm gonna hop down. I'll keep my microphone in here, but we'll start off with the first one in just a second. All right.
I'm nervous. Are you nervous?
No, I'm always the one who's embarrassed on this show.
All right. So number one, here we go.
All right.
East Tennessee State. Ari's got it.
Healy's East Tennessee State Buccaneers. McNamara playing quarterback for them this year.
Yes. All right. Nicely done. And here is the second one.
You got to get this one, Ari. Got to get this one.
Houston Baptist will take it. Houston
now,
Christian.
yeah, they call it Houston Christian now.
Does that count? I don't know.
That counts.
That dog is thinking some very unchristian thoughts, though. He is an aggressive dog. Like, we mixed it up with the Yukon logo, but that is a much fiercer looking canine than the Yukon Husky.
All right, and now here is number 3.
Oh, if you miss this one, I'm going to kill you, Ari.
All right.
I didn't write anything.
Ari, that is Beth Dutton's favorite team, the Montana State Bobcats.
Yep.
I didn't write anything.
How do you miss Beth Dutton's favorite team?
Yeah, I should have known that.
Yeah.
I thought it was Montana, and then I realized it wasn't Montana, and then I put
Montana's the Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies. Yeah, I know what Montana's is.
All right. We'll go to number 4 next.
Probably the home of the greatest go team chant in the history of the world.
He knows all of them. I don't know what this is.
Let's go P. The Austin.
That's right. Austin P. The Governors. James Fly Williams played basketball for them, and they said the fly is open. Go P.
All right.
I'm getting smoked.
Now we get to number 5.
Oh boy.
What the hell is that?
Jeez.
All right.
He said this was there would be some.
I started to write who are 3 people who have never been in my kitchen. That's Cliff Clavin's answer on Jeopardy, on Final Jeopardy. I don't know who that is.
It's Monmouth Hawks.
Monmouth.
Is that a new logo?
Some of these are new. I don't think this one's new. All right.
The last time I heard about Monmouth was in the movie Clerks.
These people in the chat are smoking me right now. I have no idea what that
All
is.
right.
You can't look at the chat. Don't cheat.
No, they're doing it after. I'm not cheating.
Okay.
Does it look like I'm cheating? I've written nothing down in 3 in a row.
Okay. Oh, apparently it is not a new logo at Monmouth. That's been their logo.
All right. Number 6.
I think I know this one.
Okay.
And I think we need to, if this is who I think it is, we need to have their coach on. Is it West Alabama?
It is not. Ari, do you have an answer? What is that?
UAPB, which is the letters that are in its name.
Oh, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Oh, yeah.
Did I get it? I get points for that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Because
you're
I
right.
got it. I can just read. Okay, UAPB, baby.
Reading counts. All right. Number 7. Number 7.
Oh my. Is it Sacramento State?
It is not. Ari, did you?
Oh no, they're different color. They're like green.
I wrote nothing down.
It's a
They're
Delaware
also
State.
it's Delaware State. It's a different Hornet. Ah,
All right.
Zach in the chat. That's not a real team.
Can you put one up there that's manageable now?
Well, this one won't be.
You got Arkansas Pine Bluff? What are you talking about?
The answer was in the logo.
I didn't see it.
All right. Number 8. Ari?
Oh, that's not it.
Yes, Ari is correct.
Northern
Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
That's an alternate. I think that's an alternate logo, though.
Well, that's the logo that they have without the letters. I didn't want to give.
That's a tremendous logo, by the way. For those listening in podcast form, this is the most jacked lumberjack you've ever seen, like the Jack Reacher of lumberjacks, with a massive golden axe, just coming at you with his fists clenched.
For tossing in a team from the state I grew up.
Yeah, I figured you know it's local. You might know this next one.
Got any Florida schools?
Yes.
You're fine. You're doing fine here, pal.
All right.
You don't need any help.
Number 9.
Oh, okay. I think I got this one.
Okay.
Is it Idaho State?
Yes, it is.
Bengals.
Cincinnati Bengals. Good guess, Ari. But no, that would be the Idaho.
That's where Mark Schlereth went, right?
I have no idea.
All right, come on. I want to get back in this. How much?
Right.
What's the score?
We'll do it after this one. This next one will be number 10. All right, number 10.
It's a bear. It's not the Central Arkansas Bear. Got it. Is that the Oakland Golden Grizzly?
No, it's not. It's the Northern Colorado.
Oh,
Bears.
Northern Colorado. Shoot.
All right.
The other UNC.
All right. Ari, you have 4 out of 10. And Andy, you have 5 out of 10 so far.
Woohoo! All right.
How many more do we have? I want to beat him.
10 more. 10 more.
10 more?
Oh, God, we have 10 more? Good
Yes.
Lord.
Yes. All right. So we will go to number 11.
That is a vicious animal. Whatever that is, I don't want to meet it in a dark alley. Like, it's almost satanic.
It's the Stony Brook Seawolves.
I never would have gotten that in a million years.
All right.
I mean, that thing looks like it would tear out your soul.
Yeah, it doesn't look very nice, does it?
This is going worse than I thought it would for me.
This is going way worse than I thought it would.
All right, number 12.
I'm just guessing based on color and logo. Is this the Columbia Lion?
This is
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's a good one. I almost wrote something else, and I'm happy I wrote nothing.
It's a blue. It's a light blue lion. Like that. That was my only hope.
Okay.
So,
All right, we will go to number 13.
oh, I just like this logo. It's Shark Week, baby.
Oh,
Long Island.
Yes. Ari, did you write anything? Okay.
I love that there's a University of Long Island.
All right. And
Shark Week is something different in my house.
number 14.
Well, that is a nasty looking bison, but that's not a bison because it's not the right color for NDSU. I got
If it's
nothing.
not North Dakota State, then I don't know what it is.
I got
That
nothing.
would be the Howard bison.
Oh, it's Howard. Oh, okay.
All right. Hang on just a sec. I got to load these in here. It only lets me upload 10 at a time. All right. And for number 15.
It's like
Lassie.
it's a nice little. It's like Lassie.
They
It's
play
not
their
a collie though. I don't know what kind of dog that is. It's like some sort of retriever, I think. But that's not. It's not UMBC. Those are the retrievers.
Wait a minute. I think I know what it is.
Okay.
I know what it is because I saw it in the chat, so I'm not going to say. I got this wrong.
I think I know what the mascot is. I think is that a Saluki?
Saluki,
it's a Saluki.
yes.
It's a Southern Illinois
Southern
Saluki.
Illinois Salukis. We'll give that
one.
Once I saw Saluki in the chat, I was like, "Oh, it's Southern Illinois." But
I'm not reading the chat.
Well, that's why I'm not taking credit for that one because I got it wrong.
And number 16.
This is like low rent Duke. Like it's a Blue Devil, but it's not Duke.
Correct. Any guesses?
No, I got nothing.
Blue
What is that?
Devil, not Duke.
Blue Devil, not Duke.
The Central Connecticut Blue Devils.
Central
Guys,
Connecticut.
you just turned him in, like they faced him in pro. They took the Duke logo and faced him in profile. That's it.
All right, and now we will go to number 17.
All right. You better get this one. This is a great one.
Yeah, Ari got it.
We got a snake. Yeah, Florida A&M Rattlers.
Yep. There we go.
Wonderful logo, great colors, great uniforms.
I know that because they played at Ohio State when I was on the beat. That's the reason I know that.
Great uniforms.
Number 18.
It's another random bird just staring at us. Like this bird does peer into your soul. His beak is tremendous.
Hey, nice, Ari.
Oh, Ari's got it. Dang.
You're on a streak.
I'm trying to make a late comeback here.
I think we're tied now.
I don't think
so.
Because
I'm dying here.
All right, two more, and then we have a bonus.
Okay.
All right, and here is number 19.
I'm like getting competitive now.
I know where this one is.
I'm cooked.
Oh yeah. All right. River, if you were to drive from Nashville to Knoxville, you would pass through Cookeville, home of Tennessee Tech. Is that right?
Yes, the Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles.
That's right. Watson Brown, Mac's brother, coach there.
Somebody just said in the chat, Ari is 2024 South Carolina.
That's right. Yeah, you're coming on strong late. Cookeville, the hometown of the Brown brothers, I believe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, my bad. Here we go. All right, and for number 20. Okay, this is just
still Tennessee Tech.
Yep. Hold on.
Here we go.
There we go.
Oh, I got this one. I love this one.
Wait.
This is one of those, like, you watch the NCAA tournament a lot. These guys show up, the basketball tournament. The Marist Red Foxes.
Yes, the Marist Red Foxes. All right, we'll do a quick little score update.
Dude, you just beat me at the end there. I thought I was making it interesting, and you got it.
So I was Illinois and Brett Bielema. You were 2024 South Carolina. I was 2024 Illinois.
No, South Carolina finished strong. I lost at the end there.
Yep.
Like I took the lead.
Well, no, they finished strong and they lost to Illinois.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Andy won the regular round 10 out of 20 versus Ari 7 out of 20.
Woo!
All right. And now for the bonus one. Now, this one, you obviously need to know the school, but bonus points if you can give me the name of the mascot.
All right.
Name of the mascot.
Okay. Oh, wait.
This one's pretty easy.
Name?
We have
like Smokey the dog at Tennessee. What is his name?
No shot.
Or like Albert. I got the school.
Yes, for
the
sure.
school is Cornell.
Yes.
Is it Corny the Bear?
It is Touchdown the Bear in honor of the fighting JD Pickels. He says that's the name of the mascot across every sport.
Ithaca is gorgeous. That's all I know. Wait, so his name, like he's named Touchdown the Bear when he goes to a basketball game too?
That's what JD says.
He's not 3-pointer the Bear.
Yeah, he's just Touchdown the Bear. So.
I mean, I guess it could have been worse, but
so Yale has Handsome Dan the Bulldog, who's handsome no matter what sport, and Cornell has Touchdown the Bear, who's touchdown even in field hockey,
all across campus.
River went out and picked the hard ones. Like you tried to make that difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like, because there were a bunch of like Ivy League schools and things like that like I would have known. And I was looking at, like,
you throw the Harvard logo up there. I think most people have seen that on a sweatshirt somewhere.
And there was a number of schools that just had like the letter as the logo, like Cornell with the C or Furman with the F.
Yeah, like
Fordham has a big F, right?
Fordham, yeah.
Well,
Good job, guys. That was fun.
Big F to you, Andy, because I'm just gonna.
This was fun.
That was fun. Like, we should have I'll go get a whiteboard and we should do this like once every now and then.
And there's plenty more we can do for another round. That
yeah,
is
and look, it doesn't always have to be topical because
yeah,
we're an hour and 15 minutes into the show. Like, the people listening and watching now, they're the true hardcores, the true believers. Like, we could have that guys in movies.
Yeah.
And River Flash. Now, you would be terrible at that, but
I mean, if we started like doing trivia, and he does the trivia, and then we write it down and like gambled on who wins, I think that would be.
As long as we add a gambling element to it, we're fine. Okay.
I'm just trying to weasel my way into the Puka card.
Or we could like show album covers and pick the band who made that album.
Absolutely.
Possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Barry's gonna have to buy himself a whiteboard.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can handle that.
I was supposed to get it yesterday, and then my day got away from me, and I totally.
We had a long group chat discussion of where you could get it.
I know.
Well.
I just it was one of those things that just escaped my mind. You know what though? Today was Sailor Day at school, and we had to get a sailor outfit for our daughter. Like, these are the things.
But you got that right.
Yeah, but that my wife got it. I didn't do that. But I mean, like,
so if I text your wife and say, "Can you pick up Ari a mini whiteboard?" She'll do it.
I mean, it's Sailor Day. So
we need you as a Popeye, Ari.
Yeah. You know what the sickest part about that is that we had that already. Like, she didn't buy that for Sailor Day. Like, that was like, we had that. Like, I don't know why we had that, but
I feel like I should get a captain's hat for some bit we do on the show. There's a guy I follow on Instagram named Mr. Professor 318. I think he actually works at Louisiana Monroe, but he uses AI to turn rock songs, rap songs, you name it, into yacht rock.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. Like, he does Metallica as yacht rock. Kendrick Lamar, like, Not Like Us as yacht rock. And you learn that everything can be made better by making it yacht rock. So
yacht rock is like an elite category of music.
It is. I should reach out to him and see if he'd allow us to use some of his yacht rock covers, and we play them and you try to guess the song.
I don't,
because they sound nothing like the originals.
Yeah, we could do that. I actually I like listen to yacht rock. And I have a playlist. I don't know how good I would be at recognizing the actual bands and names, but like, I would recognize the song. Like,
oh yeah, Robbie Dupree, Steal Away, England Dan.
I can sing along with the song without telling you the artist or the name of the song. That's kind of how I am. So, yeah, but now we've got to get to writing these for the website on 3. Andy and I both are writing for the website too. So if you are into that sort of thing, we will give you our breakdowns of that. But that was a fun show. I had a great time, and I'll miss you over the weekend, pal.
Yeah. We will talk to you guys on Monday. Big week coming next week. We'll talk to you then.